Joining a reality show with the nation's top star, and talking about my ex, I'd say, he's my role model. Dennis Liu chuckled softly. Then when's my dear babe going to pull her role model out of the block list? He's probably growing mold in there. The host froze in shock. On-screen comments exploded. This straight-shooting dog deserves a wifey. Just after I earned my master's degree in psychology, my professor handed me a golden opportunity, a month-long gig on a live-streamed relationship-themed reality show called Listen to Your Heart. I was to serve as the emotional liaison, basically eat, live, and chat with the celebrity guests for a month, offering occasional relationship insights. In truth, I was more of a decorative backdrop to give the show a sprinkle of intellectual flair. In other words, a glorified mascot. I had reviewed the guest list in advance. Thankfully, the name I was dreading wasn't on it. Few appearances, high pay, and a chance to fangirl on someone else's dime. It was like a dream come true. That night, I even posted a celebratory tweet. Less than a day later, that tweet landed me on the trending list, alongside the name I feared most. Dennis Liu matching avatars. Dennis Liu and Michelle Young. Top star Dennis liked random girl's tweet. Dennis Liu, newly crowned top star, ruling film, TV, and music charts, had liked my tweet. And that random girl was me. Had it been just a like, people might have thought he was promoting the show. But someone dug deeper. Turns out our profile pictures were matching avatars. Couple avatars, to be exact. CP fans lit up like dry grass catching fire. Bro Dennis's avatar is rare AF. You can't even find it online. I didn't realize it was a couple avatar until I saw Michelle's. There's no way it's a coincidence. A top star and his civilian girlfriend? This is drama gold. I've already drafted 3 seasons in my head. Mark my words. I'm betting a bag of spicy chips they're real. I'll come back to make a wish if I'm right. That avatar? Dennis had drawn it himself. One of a kind. I barely used Weibo and had forgotten all about it. But apparently, Dennis never changed his. Given how ugly our breakup was, I was sure he'd want no one to know about us. Fortunately, we had no current ties. I comforted myself, the internet moves fast. People would forget soon. The show launched. I arrived on time, barefaced, quietly sitting in a corner while the other stunning guests stole the spotlight. Fully embracing my mascot status. The host barely introduced me before dropping a bombshell. There'd be one more last-minute mystery guest arriving any moment. The announcement instantly electrified the atmosphere. Comments on the livestream scrolled by in a flood of wild guesses. Once everyone was seated, the speculations intensified. Who could have the clout to join a show on premiere day? Because I'd been too busy studying, I wasn't familiar with most of the celebrities. But one girl stood out, Colleen, a hot rising actress who had recently co-starred in a film with Dennis. The movie had gained them a ton of CP shippers. When the camera panned over, catching Colleen and me in the same frame, the comments went wild. Colleen looks gorgeous again today, someone sent hugs. Michelle's looks can't compare. There's no way Dennis would like her. I really don't get why anyone ships those couple avatars. Seriously. Colleen and Dennis are the real deal, the perfect pair. I think Michelle actually looks great without makeup. With a little glam, she'd shine even more. Why compare a civilian to a celeb? Mid-discussion, Colleen suddenly piped up, could the mystery guest be Dan? Someone teased, wow, Dan? That was intimate. Sounds like you two are close in private. Colleen turned away, blushing like a schoolgirl whose secret crush had just been outed. At the mention of Dennis, my heart gave a little twist. But I reminded myself, I was already on the show. There was no way Dennis would show up. He had no open schedule. Definitely not. The thought calmed me. Other guests agreed, it wasn't likely. With Dennis's fame, joining a variety show like this would be beneath him. The shoot was in a quiet countryside far from the city. And yet, after just a few cups of tea, the mystery guest arrived. To keep all the stars in the same shot, the host asked me to go greet him. The cameraman instinctively swung his lens toward the door. I pushed the door open, and froze. Tall, nearly 6'3", with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. Black sunglasses. A face mask. A cold, detached aura. The guest squinted, trying to make him out. But I knew at a glance, it was Dennis. For a second, I felt the blood freeze in my veins. Why was he here? Before the shock fully registered, he pulled me into a warm embrace. A familiar scent brushed past my nose, clean, light, and nostalgic. Babe, I missed you so much. His voice was low and soft, meant for my ears alone. Did he forget, we're live? I watched the cameraman's eyes widen like saucers, and the host's jaw practically dropped to the floor. My own expression likely mirrored theirs. Then, as if nothing had happened, Dennis let go and removed his sunglasses and mask. The other celebs quickly rushed forward to greet him. We were all still stunned by the hug, uncertain how to break the silence. Dennis suddenly chuckled. It was just a greeting. Everyone exhaled, chuckling nervously. Teacher Lou is so down to earth. No airs at all. The comments section went into overdrive. Just a greeting? I'm not buying it. Who hugs a stranger to say hi? There's something going on between him and Michelle. Come on, Dennis said it was just a greeting. Why are you all imagining things? He obviously came for Colleen, not some random civilian girl. LOL. And who exactly do you think you are, judging civilians like that? You're not a celeb either. With Dennis's arrival, the full cast was finally assembled. The stars gathered, sipping tea and chatting. I sat with the host directly across from the others. Colleen was nestled next to Dennis, her eyes practically glued to him. Dennis traveled miles for love. Colleen looked so tender. It's mutual pining, so romantic. Dennis and Colleen, perfect match. To help the group bond, the host started guiding us through themed discussions. The first topic? Giving encouragement. The host smiled warmly and called out to me. Appropriate encouragement can bring people warmth and strength. Miss Michelle, why don't you show us an example? Give Mr. Lou a compliment. The camera panned toward Dennis and me. Dennis lifted his gaze and looked straight at me, steady, intense, and far too beautiful for my peace of mind. His long lashes trembled lightly, and his eyes shone with such focus that my brain went utterly blank. All the eloquent words I'd once prided myself on scattered like bubbles bursting in midair. Handsome, charismatic, talented, kind, brilliant, all those words reached my lips, and turned into one mortifying sentence. I grew up watching your shows. The whole table froze. The host scrambled to fill the silence. Ah, and which of Dennis's roles is your favorite? I answered instinctively, the time he played that loyal dog type, it was very convincing. The air went dead still. The host leaned toward me and whispered in panic, barely audible, careful, Dennis hates that role. Playing a dog was his black history. Don't mention it. Everyone's faces twitched in disbelief. But Dennis merely curved his lips, amusement flickering in his eyes. He broke the silence with a soft, teasing tone that carried a faint hint of warmth. Thank you, babe. That was touching. The familiar tenderness in his voice made my heart tremble. The live chat went wild with laughter. Miss Michelle really has a talent for giving compliments. Dennis, I've played so many cool, heroic characters, and babe remembers me as a dog? Why is the atmosphere between them so weirdly good? I can't stop shipping them. I've followed Dennis for years and have never seen him smile this gently. My king is gone. Help, I didn't mean to ship them, but they do have matching avatars, and he calls her babe. Who can resist? Fans expected Dennis to get mad like a CEO. Instead, he's grinning like an idiot, tail wagging, babe, let's cuddle. The host clearly hadn't expected Dennis's reaction. Laughing awkwardly, he clapped his hands. Ah, such humor from our brilliant psychology graduate, what a delight. The tension eased. Subsequent topics turned softer, more emotional. When it was Colleen's turn, she began sharing her struggles in the industry. Midway, her eyes welled up, and she burst into tears on camera. By the end, she lifted her chin, forcing a trembling smile as she gazed at Dennis. But I guess I'm lucky, she said between sniffles. I've met so many wonderful people. Like Dan, he's always been quietly supporting me. The live chat filled with sympathy. Ah, Colleen and Dennis really went through so much together, they'll never have a bad ending. That random girl has nothing on our Colleen. She can't possibly steal Dennis away after all they've shared. Dennis, go hug her already. Comfort your girl. Throughout her speech, Dennis's expression remained completely blank. When she finally finished, his voice came out low, clipped, and faintly irritated. Are you done? Colleen blinked in surprise, then nodded meekly. At that exact moment, my stomach growled, loudly. I coughed twice to cover it, cheeks burning. Dennis turned his head. If we're done talking, let's go make dinner. The comments section exploded again. To the person who said, they'll never break up, take it back. Dennis just single-handedly ended that ship. Michelle got hungry, and Dennis immediately jumped up to cook? Stop it, I'm going to die from the sweetness. Did anyone notice Dennis hasn't taken his eyes off Michelle the entire time? If gazes could stretch like silk, he could open a noodle shop. I don't care if you ship them or not, this much sugar is illegal, I'm falling hard. You all are delusional, maybe he's just being polite. Not everything is about CPs. Excuse me, who made you the CP police? If I want to ship, I'll ship. What's next, you going to taste the air to check its salt level too? Because there weren't enough hands in the kitchen, the production crew dragged me, the honorary mascot, into helping. They asked if I had any signature dishes. During our relationship, Dennis had always done the cooking. After the breakup, I'd survived on cafeteria food. Signature dishes? Please. My specialties were cutting my fingers and oversalting everything. But with the camera zoomed right into my face, I forced a smile. I make an exceptional pot of plain boiled water. Does that count? The host and guests all tried, and failed, not to laugh. I ducked my head in embarrassment. Luckily, all eyes soon turned toward Dennis, who was focused on slicing vegetables. Colleen, ever eager, leaned closer. Den, your knife skills are amazing. Did you take lessons? Dennis's gaze flicked to me for half a second. Yeah. Someone only liked meat and hated veggies. I had to learn so I could coax her into eating more. Colleen giggled shyly. Y'aurais autrefois d'idées. Maybe add a bit of cilantro, it'll enhance the flavor. Dennis's tone cooled. No. She doesn't, I don't like cilantro. The chat blew up once more. Be king can cook? Be still, my heart, he's dancing on my aesthetic line. OMG, who's the someone he mentioned? Which lucky girl? I'm crawling in jealousy. He looked at Michelle when he said it. That someone is definitely her. Are we actually getting a civilian sister-in-law? No way, it has to be Colleen. She's the one responding to him. They're perfect. You're blind. He's clearly ignoring Colleen. How are you forcing this ship? When dinner was ready, Dennis placed several dishes right in front of me. Though I'd always hated leafy greens with a passion, his cooking was as flawless as ever, turning even simple vegetables into something irresistible. And truth be told, I had missed his flavor of home. I picked up my chopsticks and took a few more bites. Dennis smiled faintly. Good girl, babe. Eat a bit more. My hand froze midair. He paused too, as if realizing what he'd said. Sorry, force of habit. Good girl. He used to say that every time he cooked for me, repeating it once or twice each meal, just to make me smile and keep eating. Cough. Lost in the memory, I forgot to swallow and choked on my food. Here, water. Dennis pushed through the group and came over to me. I accepted the glass, gulped twice, then instinctively handed it back to him for him to put away. The movement was so smooth, so practiced, it was pure muscle memory. The motion was seamless, pure muscle memory. I hadn't even thought about it. Everyone at the table stared blankly at Dennis and me. Realizing what I'd just done, I quickly lowered my head and started shoveling food into my mouth. The live chat instantly went berserk. Wait, our cold, elegant Dennis? When did he start serving tea and water like a doting puppy? He's killing me. They were sitting so far apart, but the moment Michelle coughed, Dennis practically teleported to her side. Muscle memory doesn't lie. You don't move like that unless you've been that close before. I don't care, these two are real. Maybe Dennis is just being nice to a civilian guest. Stop overanalyzing. The Colleen times Dennis couple is the real beauty and talent pairing, heaven made. A few quiet days later, the show's producers decided to raise the stakes again, another campfire, heart-to-heart special. The topic this time, making peace with your ex. To me, those words translated to, prepare for execution. I inhaled sharply and kept my head down, terrified of accidentally meeting Dennis's eyes. Because this topic was bold, and Dennis's popularity guaranteed clicks, the episode's hype skyrocketed. Even people who rarely watched variety shows tuned in, ready with popcorn. Several guests eager for screen time started sharing their heartbreak stories with theatrical passion, making the atmosphere warm and messy all at once. Then the host turned to Colleen. She smiled sweetly, lowering her lashes. I don't have an ex, she said softly, only someone I care about. Her gaze, predictably, drifted toward Dennis. The livestream chat exploded. Colleen just confessed. Our brave girl. She's so in love it hurts. A few dissenting comments scrolled by, scattered among the hearts and emojis. Maybe it's one-sided? Has Dennis ever responded to her that way? Honestly, Colleen's been milking their movie hype for months. Girl, give it a rest. When Colleen finally finished, the host pivoted sharply, toward me, who'd been sitting quietly on the edge of the group, playing the perfect mascot. Miss Michelle, you're so beautiful, surely you've been in love before. How do you view your ex? Oh no. The question I dreaded most. Dennis definitely wouldn't want anyone to know about our past. My palms were sweating, but I forced myself to stay composed. Keeping my voice neutral and academic, I said, he's my role model. Dennis let out a low chuckle. Then when's my dear babe going to pull her role model out of the block list? He's probably growing mold in there. I froze. Did he remember this was live? Why was he saying that? The host, guests, even the director all stared in disbelief. Dennis only shrugged casually. Don't be so serious. I'm just standing up for babe's poor ex. The host gave a strained laugh, visibly relieved. Our Dennis, so empathetic. But the chat was in full meltdown. Tell me I'm not the only one who thinks he's the ex. You're definitely not. Ah. Either explain or get married already. Dennis looks like an abandoned puppy begging for cuddles. He wants Michelle to hold him, kiss him, okay, can't air the rest. No way that's true. Be logical. How could a top-tier star like Dennis ever get dumped by an average-looking civilian girl? Out of her league. Too late. I'm already gone for the ship. I'm waving the flag for the reunion. CP, fight me. The scene was spiraling out of control. The host, panicking, hurried to steer the topic elsewhere. While everyone scrambled, Colleen, sitting across from me, shot me a venomous glare. I glared right back. Since the show began, she and I hadn't interacted much. I'd never provoked her, yet her hostility toward me kept growing. At first, I'd told myself to ignore it. I was just here to finish filming and collect my paycheck. But now she was blatantly showing it on camera? Glaring at me? Please. I, Michelle Young, am not the type to get scared off by a jealous actress. Because the reunion segment had trended overnight, I found myself gaining more screen time in the following episodes. During a seaside game where pairs had to catch shrimp under the guidance of local fishermen, the director deliberately teamed me with Dennis. The rules were simple: whichever pair caught the most shrimp would get to eat first. The others had to wait until the winners were done. The producers called it a test of teamwork and adaptability. I called it a setup. I was allergic to seafood, so I didn't dare touch the shrimp. I busied myself picking seashells along the shore instead. Dennis, meanwhile, seemed to have unlocked some hidden superpower. He threw on a pair of loose shorts and charged into the water like a man possessed, completely ignoring his star image. Within minutes, he'd become the undisputed shrimp-catching champion, serving up endless meme material for the viewers. Starring in his new film Charge of the Shrimp Brigade, a Bro Dennis production. Dennis, I'm not catching shrimp, I'm catching my wifey's heart. Y'all laugh, but do you have partners? Look at Dennis with Michelle, he's genuinely happy. Like, evolutionary regression happy. The bee king is gone. Before us stands Neogulu straight ball dog Lou. Dennis battled shrimp like a warrior ahead of me, while I trailed behind, trying not to laugh out loud. For years, I'd quietly followed his news, watching as his public persona hardened into that of the cool, untouchable idol, the mature, stoic, hard-to-approach Dennis Liu. In candid photos, he never smiled. He never posted about his life. I'd thought he'd changed. But clearly, beneath the calm exterior, he was still that reckless little wolf dog I used to know. Because I kept sneaking glances at him, I didn't see the sharp glint of glass half buried in the sand. When I stepped down, pain lanced through my foot, and a long trail of blood appeared behind me. Dennis came jogging over proudly, lifting his basket of shrimp like a trophy. The moment he saw the blood, his expression darkened. Before I could even explain, I was suddenly lifted off the ground. My hands flew instinctively around his neck. Hundreds of eyes followed us as he carried me effortlessly across the beach. Flustered, I pressed myself closer, tucking my face into the curve of his shoulder to hide. The familiar scent of him, clean and warm, tinged with sea salt, washed over me. In that moment, it felt like the years between us had melted away. I was back in those moonlit nights when my little wolf dog waited under the street lamp for me after class, always pulling something out of his pocket like a magician to make me smile. Sometimes it was a hot sweet potato, steaming in the cold air. Sometimes, a dewy rose. Sometimes, a cup of chilled lemonade. His arms had once been like Doraemon's pocket, always full of surprises, always something that made my heart flutter. Babe, have you been eating well since I left? You've lost so much weight, your chin could cut glass. As Dennis spoke, his chest vibrated faintly. The warmth of his voice traveled through the thin fabric between us. I could even hear my own heartbeat, loud and unsteady. Dennis still looked as devastatingly beautiful as ever, his voice deep and magnetic, his hold on me steady and sure. Everything about the moment felt so familiar, so dangerously familiar, that for one absurd second, I almost believed I could just take his hand, bring him home, and do all the things we used to do without restraint. But it was also foreign, because now, we were nothing to each other. We'd broken up. Completely. I still remembered the day it ended. It had been snowing hard. I'd been drinking, angry and irrational, spitting out harsh words one after another. His eyes had turned red, he tried several times to pull me into his arms, but I dodged him each time. Finally, his voice went hoarse. He asked, almost pleadingly, "Babe, let me ask one last time, do you really not want me anymore?" I'd answered without hesitation. "That's right. I don't." Dennis took a sharp breath, his voice breaking. "Fine. Then it's over. From now on, whoever looks back first, is a dog." He carried me all the way back to my room, the cameraman following us like a shadow. The livestream comments were going insane. "I'm gonna die from sweetness." "Straightforward, decisive, zero hesitation, Princess Carrie level boyfriend power max." Our always aloof Dennis instantly turns into a loyal golden retriever whenever Michelle's around. This is blatant favoritism and I love it. Somebody kill me, I want to cheer for them with fireworks. Are we sure we're not watching a K-drama right now? This is way too romantic. Look at that worried gaze, he's so soft, so vulnerable. Don't tell me they're not still in love, because even I don't believe it. Once we were in the room, Dennis gently set me down on the bed. He went straight to the medicine cabinet and took out a bottle of alcohol disinfectant. Babe, let's rinse the glass out of the wound first, he said, twisting the cap open. Wait. I bit my lip, forcing a sweet smile. I can do it myself. You can go. Dennis looked at me quietly. All right. When he left, I immediately capped the bottle again and shoved it back into the kit. I'd just peel off a band-aid, slap it on, and call it a day. But just as I was about to stick it on, a voice sounded behind me. Babe. The band-aid slipped from my hand and fluttered to the floor. I turned around, Dennis was standing there, watching me with helpless eyes. I knew it, he sighed, half amused, half exasperated. He walked over, crouched in front of me, and gently took hold of my ankle. Then he twisted the cap open again. Babe, it won't hurt, you liar. I blurted out before I could stop myself. That's exactly what you said last time. Dennis froze for a moment. Then I realized what I'd just said. Last time, it felt recent, but in truth, it had been 4 years ago. I'd been riding my bike when my blood sugar suddenly dropped. I'd crashed, scraping up half my body. My knees were the worst. Back then, Dennis had been the one holding the bottle of alcohol, insisting it wouldn't hurt. The instant it hit my skin, though, I wanted to murder him. When he couldn't hold me still, he'd said softly, Babe, I know a way to take the pain away. How? I'd asked suspiciously. His eyes had traveled from mine down to my chin, then he wrapped an arm around my waist and leaned in. And, well, it worked. In a state of near oxygen deprivation and dizzy excitement, you really don't feel pain. The memory faded. By the time I came back to myself, Dennis was already done disinfecting the wound, wrapping it carefully in gauze. When he finished, he stood and pressed something into my mouth. I blinked, tasting sweetness on my tongue. Candy. Back when we were together, Dennis always carried a few pieces in his pocket because of my low blood sugar. Even after all these years apart, he'd never let go of the habit. Not long after Dennis and I returned from the beach, the shrimp catching game wrapped up. Everyone gathered back in the courtyard. His basket had been brought in, but it was empty. According to the rules, the two of us would have to wait until everyone else finished eating before we could have dinner. Dennis paced around the kitchen once, then grabbed his keys and headed out. The live stream had ended by then. I sat in a small chair by the dining table, scrolling through old photos on my phone. Back then, Dennis had a little baby fat on his cheeks, soft, sweet, almost harmless. Now his features had sharpened, his beauty tinged with restraint, a dangerous kind of allure that made it hard to look away. Most of the others had gone out to play. Colleen's team had won, and they were feasting on seafood. Miss Michelle, Colleen called suddenly. What is it? I asked without looking up. Could you help me peel a shrimp? I accidentally cut my finger. I shook my head. Sorry, I'm allergic to seafood. Colleen smiled even more sweetly. It's fine. You're not eating it, just peeling. That shouldn't be a big deal, right? I immediately realized she was doing it on purpose, trying to humiliate me. My tone hardened. I said no. The young male idol beside her frowned. Sis Colleen, let me do it for you. Colleen shot him a glare, then slowly walked toward me, grabbed my wrist, and shoved a shrimp into my hand. See? It's fine. Why act so delicate? You're just a random nobody, no looks, no fame. What could you possibly compare to me? Who's even comparing themselves to you? I frowned, irritation rising like heat under my skin. Colleen glanced down at my phone screen, and caught sight of Dennis's photos. A mocking smile curved her lips. So you two really did date. You didn't even like him, why keep his pictures? Something in me snapped. Who said I didn't like Dennis? I did, I do. I like him so much I dream about him. God, it felt good to say it out loud. A little madness really is good for your health. Colleen's eyes widened, her voice rose. What right do you have to like him? I shoved the shrimp right into her mouth. Get out. The male idol rushed over, trying to play peacemaker. Michelle, you can't just insult people. I glared at him. You can get out too. Colleen completely lost it. You're just a nobody. How dare you act so arrogant? I was trained that way, I snapped. Then a calm, familiar voice spoke behind me. I see the kitchen didn't have any of your favorite dishes, Dennis said, carrying 2 large bags in his hands. So I went out and bought some. Colleen turned toward him, and for the first time, that flawlessly sweet, camera-ready face cracked, like a meme come to life. To be honest, I probably didn't look much better. When exactly had Dennis entered the room? And, how much had he heard? Colleen, ever the actress, recovered her expression almost instantly. Den, you must have misunderstood. I was just messing around with Miss Michelle. Just playing, really. Dennis said nothing. He simply pulled out his phone and tapped on a video. On screen, a girl could be seen creeping up to Dennis's shrimp basket and quietly dumping all the shrimp onto the ground. Then she stood with her hands on her hips, laughing like a cartoon villain. I'd always thought villains in dramas laughed too theatrically. Turns out, art really does imitate life. When the clip ended, Colleen's face had gone completely white. Dennis's voice was calm, cold. This was broadcast live for quite a while. You haven't been checking your phone, have you? Colleen hurriedly pulled out her phone. After a few swipes, her fingers began to tremble. No, bro Dennis, I'm really sorry. Honestly, I didn't mean to target you. I just didn't want Michelle to. She trailed off, then quickly added, could you maybe clear it up online? Say we were just joking around, that it was all in fun. Dennis glanced at my shrimp-stained hands, and his voice dropped a few degrees colder. I might have helped you before. But now, I can't. And besides, the person you should be apologizing to isn't me. Colleen understood. Reluctantly, she turned to me. Sorry. Then she left with the young male idol, likely off to find someone from PR. They were from the same agency, after all. Dennis quietly pulled a tissue from the table and carefully wiped my hand clean. Judging by his expression, he hadn't heard what I'd blurted out to Colleen earlier, about how I dreamed of him and missed him so much it hurt. After that, Colleen claimed she was sick and skipped every single group activity the show arranged. Bored, I scrolled back through the live stream comments from earlier. I used to ship Colleen and Dennis. Wow, I was blind. He worked so hard and she just dumped all his shrimp? Unforgivable. That final laugh of hers was cursed. Like a rooster crowing at dawn. Rooster, please don't compare me to her. Didn't Colleen get exposed before for bullying civilians online? And telling fans to shine her shoes or something? What's with the fake classiness? What brand of trash bag is she? She sure fits a lot. When her fans called Michelle unworthy, she even liked the comments with a burner account. This is why I'll always believe in the reunion CP. My mom told me, true love can't be faked. Dennis is clearly still head over heels for Michelle. Reading that, I instinctively looked up at Dennis. Only to find that he was already looking at me. I panicked and looked away, heart pounding again. That night was the final late-night talk segment of the show. Dennis was clearly out of it, losing every game, drinking glass after glass of punishment liquor. By the end, his head slowly dropped onto my shoulder. I nudged him gently. He responded by wrapping an arm around my waist, the movement so fluid, so natural, like his body remembered what his mind didn't. His voice, thick with alcohol, rasped softly into my ear. Babe, I want to tell you a secret. Let go first, I warned. We're live. The host and other guests exchanged knowing glances, all grinning like doting ants, and quietly wandered off to give us space, though they kept sneaking glances our way. Dennis didn't let go. In fact, he clung even tighter, his fluffy head nuzzling against me. Babe, he murmured, I actually have a bunch of burner accounts. All of them are for following you. What? I blinked. That day when you posted on Weibo, I meant to like it from a burner. But I tapped the wrong account. He looked up at me, expression sheepish and a little whiny. Babe, I joined this show for you. I missed you. I sighed. You heard what I said to Colleen that day, didn't you? Dennis nodded obediently. Babe, you have no idea how happy I was. That was the happiest day I've had in years, since you left. I opened my mouth to say something, but he reached up and gently placed a hand over my lips. He looked up at me, eyes bright and sincere, like an oversized puppy desperate for reassurance. But I'm also scared, he whispered. What if you only said those things to make Colleen angry? What if you didn't really mean them? He reached out and gently ruffled my hair. Michelle? I really like you. Woof. The livestream comments exploded. OMG, I can't take this. Say yes. Please just say yes. Who could resist a sincere, gorgeous puppy like him? I'm dragging the marriage office over here. Get married now. Our reunion CP is finally reuniting. MOM. I did it. My ship came true. Get the kiss them now squad ready. At this point, not kissing would be rude. I laughed despite myself. Back then, he was the one who'd said, whoever looks back first is a dog. Now, he was the one breaking his own rule. I looked at him teasingly. You were right. What I said to Colleen that day, it was to make her angry. Dennis's eyes turned red almost instantly. His arm around my waist slowly loosened. But his voice was firm. That's okay. I'll just start over. From the beginning. His body swayed slightly, he was clearly tipsy, but his hand still gripped the corner of my sleeve tightly. Babe, before I came on the show, I wrote a whole plan. What plan? Dennis's voice softened. A plan to win you back. So, he'd come prepared, after all. The moonlight fell across his face, highlighting his deep-set eyes, the proud line of his nose, the soft curve of his lips. My little wolf dog had finally come home. Under the night sky, I whispered, Dennis, I like you too. His drowsy eyes snapped open. Babe, what did you say? I said, I smiled, let's try again. Let's fall in love one more time. In a flash, Dennis jumped up and pulled me with him, running straight toward the group. A sense of dread swept over me. Standing in front of everyone, Dennis held up our joined hands and shook them back and forth like a prize. This is my girlfriend, Michelle. Then, turning to each guest like a schoolboy with something to prove, he asked, do you have a girlfriend? No? Well, I do. My girlfriend is Michelle, and she's a brilliant, master's student. I muttered, completely speechless. And he wasn't done. He even turned to the young pop singer. Do you have a girlfriend? He asked. She nodded shyly, then paused and shook her head, clearly flustered. I stood awkwardly to the side, my toes curling into the floor. Leaning close to his ear, I whispered, Dennis, let's go home. If we stayed any longer, he'd completely embarrass his celebrity image. Fans would think their idol was a fool in love. But Dennis, ever obedient, nodded, okay. I'll go home with you, sis. I'll do whatever you say. I used to think Dennis was already crazy when he was drunk. Turns out, sober Dennis was even more outrageous. The first thing he did after sobering up? Officially announced our relationship to the public. His caption read, loving her is a habit carved deep into my bones, one I'll never be able to quit. The internet exploded. The media was stunned. The comment section became a full-blown party for reunion shippers. And Colleen, once again became the target of collective fury. That night, my old professor called me. Michelle, I just knew it. You and Dennis were never truly over. Back then, when Dennis and I were breaking up, he was the first to try to talk me out of it. I was still an undergrad preparing for grad school, buried in studies and overwhelmed with stress, barely able to breathe. Dennis, on the other hand, was at the peak of his rising career, attending endless events, filming, preparing for his concert tour, his schedule packed from dawn to dusk. And yet, he still made time every day to cook for me, clean our tiny apartment, and pick me up from class. But I was exhausted and irritable. I was so stressed, I probably would have kicked a stray dog if it got in my way. I had nothing left to offer him emotionally. Still, Dennis tried his best to juggle both me and his career, sleeping no more than 2 or 3 hours a night. Eventually, I couldn't bear to watch it anymore. I asked for a breakup. At first, Dennis thought I was joking. He laughed, sis, you're prepping for your exams, not heading into battle. No need to sacrifice your man in the name of higher education. But once he realized I was serious, Dennis completely panicked. He even considered quitting the industry just to stay by my side. And that, ironically, was what pushed me to make up my mind. I didn't want him to abandon the career he loved more than life itself, because of me. He wouldn't be happy. And I'd carry the guilt forever. After the breakup, Dennis kept checking in on me through my professor. Every week, without fail. Whenever he got drunk, he'd clutch my professor's hand and cry, she's so focused on her dreams. What am I supposed to do without my wifey? He'd always beg the professor not to tell me he'd come by. But the professor, bless him, told me everything. Dennis, that brilliant fool, never stopped to consider who the professor was closer to behind the scenes. After the show wrapped, I moved into Dennis's apartment. One evening, I hid in the bathroom and secretly flipped open the thick notebook he drunkenly mentioned, a detailed, win Michelle back, plan. On the cover was a handwritten line, the day I met you, love surged like a tide. Since then, the whole world feels romantic. And inside, page after page, was filled with nothing but my name. Michelle. Tears fell onto the back of my hand, searing hot. Just then, Dennis's voice floated in from outside the bathroom. Sis, is it boring showering all alone? Huh? His fingers pressed against the door handle, his voice low and playful. We've got time. Let's do it together. I used to think love meant sacrifice, meant letting go for someone else's sake. But Dennis showed me, love also means persistence. It means staying, even when you're told to leave. It means writing my name 1,000 times, just to remind himself he never forgot. So this time, I won't run. Not when he's waiting outside the bathroom door, smiling like I'm his whole world. This time, I'm staying.